guys. Thank you for joining me today for, I don't think it's only my second Patriots stream of the 2023 season. So thank you for bearing with me. I'm still a little bit sick, got a little tickle in my throat and a little bit of congestion. So if you hear a bit of that, or if I have to kind of like pause for a second, that is why. But definitely I'm feeling a lot better than I had been. So it's just kind of, oh my goodness, my cat already. So it's just trying to get rid of that extra stuff in there. So hopefully we can continue this. I was really excited to put this stream together today. Looking forward to this Patriots game in week 4. So I just want to jump right into it because I am excited to talk about the Patriots today. So first, I want to just go over like basic stats of the game and see, look, we already have to do this. All right, there we go. That's better. So the Cowboys are opening up as 7-point favorites right now. I think the lowest I saw was 6.5 points. So obviously, I mean, they're going to be the leader, the favorites right now, which is not surprising. They are 2-1, and they had started the season pretty dominantly with a 40-10 win over the Giants and a 30-something win or something over the Jets. So not surprising at all. But at the same time, I think that needs to be taken into context because, you know, people are trying to, you know, come for the Patriots for their win being just against the Jets. Okay, well, the Cowboys only beat the Giants and they only beat the Jets as well. So if we're really going to go that route, I think we can go that route with the Cowboys as well. They were just beaten by the Cardinals, which we'll go over in a second. But the series record in Dallas, the Patriots are 2-4. So definitely not on their side to be visiting this week, but Belichick is 5-1 against the Cowboys, and McCarthy is 2-3 against the Patriots. So certainly an interesting matchup, and it's kind of coming at a really interesting time, I think, for both teams, kind of having the opposite start to the season, but coming off of very different results for week 3. So I think this could be a more interesting game, I think, than people are anticipating. Before I move on, I want to make sure I say hello to Chris. Thank you so much. Just got a little tickle, but we'll see. Hopefully that goes away soon. So let's look at the Cowboy season so far. After I already alluded to it, they did get beaten by the Cardinals in Arizona 28-16. I actually watched this game and I was a little surprised by how the Cowboys played because the Cardinals are kind of a weird team right now. They don't have Kyler Murray because he tore his ACL last year, and they have a brand new head coach and just like kind of dysfunction a bit since the hiring of the new coach, the release of DeAndre Hopkins, the stepping down of their GM. Like there's just been a whole mess of stuff that has happened for them this offseason. And so this was kind of an interesting win for them because I don't think anyone expected the Cardinals to really get many wins at all this season. So this was huge for them. And because of that game, Dan Quinn did come out, who is the Cowboys defensive coordinator, and said that the team is very pissed off about what happened last week and that they will likely be playing angry on Sunday against the Patriots. And some people are a little bit concerned about that because obviously it's a little bit of added motivation and you don't really want to be the team on the receiving end of that. So the Patriots will definitely have to pay attention to that. Maybe have to overcome that, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So looking at the stats. So I wanted to look at the stats of this game because it is their first loss of the season. And, you know, the Patriots aren't necessarily on the same level as the Cardinals. They're not going through the same issues. Clearly, they have Belichick, Kraft, whatnot. But it was the Cowboys' first loss. And it feels like they kind of provided the blueprint for the Patriots and how to beat the Cowboys. So the Cardinals had Joshua Dobbs, who's their backup quarterback right now, and he had a mediocre day for the most part. He was 17 of 21 for just 189 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions, but he is a little bit more of a mobile quarterback, so he did have 6 carries for 55 yards. And we know that the defense, especially for the Cowboys, is one of the better ones in the league, but he was only sacked 2 times for a loss of 11 yards. So I felt like we'll come back to that when we talk about the matchups, but that is significant. The run game was running wild all over the Cowboys defense as well. We had James Conner, 14 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown, and Rondale Moore had 3 carries for 54 yards and a touchdown. And they had like a no-name receiver go off. Michael Wilson was 2 of 2 for 86 yards, but Hollywood Brown, as their number 1 guy, presumably at this point, he was 5 of 7 for 61 yards and a touchdown. So if we're looking on paper, the Patriots seemingly have a better offense than this. I mean, I don't know that many would argue that Joshua Dobbs is better than Mac Jones. I don't know many people that would say James Conner is better than Ezekiel Elliott or Ramondre Stevenson. And I don't know that many would argue that Michael Wilson and Hollywood Brown are better than Juju, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry. Like, I don't know that we're there. Like, you don't have to be a big believer in this Patriots offense, but I think that the Patriots are definitely more equipped to do more damage than these players did. So hopefully they can like replicate this, or not, if anything, do better than this, because I mean, the Cowboys defense is supposed to be one of the better ones in the league, and they were getting dominated by these players that, you know, no one is really sitting there talking about how great these guys are, or how the Cardinals have, you know, dominant offense that defenses are scared of. So, but looking at the other side, we have the Cowboys offense. We had Dak have a pretty, I don't know what to call it, like pedestrian game, I guess. He was 25 of 40, which is a lot for him. 40 pass attempts for 249 yards. He had a touchdown and an interception. He was only sacked twice for 18 yards, but of course he had 3 carries also for 24 yards. And their run game is going to be a thing that the Patriots defense are definitely going to have to pay attention to, because they might have gotten rid of Ezekiel Elliott, but they got rid of him because they felt really good about Tony Pollard. So against the Cardinals, he had 23 carries for 122 yards. Their offense has struggled in the red zone all this season, which I'll get into a little later. So he did not get a touchdown. And their top receivers, Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb. Gallup went 6 of 7 for 92 yards, and CeeDee Lamb had a pretty lame day compared to what he normally gets, and he went 4 of 7 for 53 yards. Rico Dowdle, he went off 3 of 3 for 25 yards and a touchdown. So, you know, they clearly did something good against CeeDee Lamb, because he is an absolute monster if you let him go off. This Rico Dowdle guy, you don't want the Patriots to get beaten by a guy that you don't even know existed. And I say that in the most respectful way possible. But yeah, we definitely don't want that to happen. So, let's see at the comments. It's just me and Chris today. So it's just you and me, Chris. He says, I hope to see more Kendrick Bourne this week. Me too. And he says, feed the Zeke. Yes, I'm going to definitely go into that. Might have a bit of a revenge game, kind of, which, you know, the Cowboys might have that extra motivation because they're mad about what happened last week, but we might have some motivation on our side too, you know? So right before I went live, it was like an hour ago, we actually got the injury report, both teams. So it's their final injury report before Sunday, and the Patriots definitely lucked out for who they are having, not on the injury report, and the Cowboys already listed a player out. So that benefits the Patriots as well. So nobody right now is listed as out or doubtful, which is great, because there's a lot of questions, especially around Jonathan Jones. So we had City drop off the injury report, which is big for the offensive line, because he did a pretty good job in week 1 when he was in as a backup for Cole Strange and Onwenu. So that's a good sign. I'm very excited about that. But the other names on the questionable list are Barmore, Gotcha, John Jones, Strange, and Sean Wade was added. They were all limited in practice today, but hopefully we get John Jones back. With Marcus Jones out, we have Jack Jones out. It would be really, really great if we could have John Jones back and Sean Wade being out. Like, they just need some help. I mean, Gonzo has been going off, but Jonathan Jones would be a significant upgrade to the roster on Sunday. Dallas's injury report, they already ruled out Tyron Smith, who is their starting tackle. So that's definitely a good sign for the Patriots D-line when they're dealing with Equalee having an injury and their beat up interior. So that is good. They also put on their questionable list Tyler Biadasz. I don't know how to say his last name. That's a center. Peyton Hendershot, he's tight end. He is questionable. And guard is Zach Martin. He's been dealing with an injury for a while too, so it's possible he misses this game, which would be a big move in the Patriots' favor as well. So we'll have to pay attention to that over the weekend. But pretty good news for the Patriots, I would say. A lot better than what we've seen over the last couple weeks, that's for sure. So let's get into the points of emphasis for how the Patriots can win this game. And one of the main ones is slowing down Dak. You do not want to allow Dak Prescott to get hot. We know probably more than a lot of teams in this league that if you let Dak get hot, then you're probably going to lose. The last time that the Patriots and the Cowboys played each other, I'm sure you guys remember, it was just 2 seasons ago at Gillette. And it came down to overtime. The Cowboys ended up winning 35-29 in overtime, and Dak went off completely in that game. He threw for 445 yards, 3 touchdowns. So again, don't want him to go and get hot. Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. I know the team is quite different than it was 2 years ago, especially in the secondary, but CeeDee went off in that game as well, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But definitely, if you slow down CeeDee Lamb, it looks like it's going to work to make sure you're slowing down Dak as well. So the Cardinals did a great job at doing that last week. As I said, he had pretty pedestrian numbers, and slowing him down, limiting him and CeeDee Lamb seemed to be a big factor in why they lost. So again, as I said earlier about the Cardinals kind of providing that blueprint, that looks like the biggest thing here, because Tony Pollard definitely had a great job, had 122 yards on the ground, but he didn't get into the end zone. So it's like, even if they had a good run game, if they're not scoring points, then it's not going to matter. So it's definitely going to be a big day for the secondary. And as I alluded to earlier, they've gotten pretty bad in the red zone this year so far. They actually ranked 27th in the red zone, and they only went 1 of 5 last week against the Cardinals. So that is going to have to be a point of emphasis for the Patriots defense this week, because if they can play that up and just annihilate them in the red zone, which they've done pretty well with that so far this season. We saw them get a couple of good stops in the red zone. We saw Judon get the safety last week. I think that could be a big factor for the Patriots if they can maintain that. I want to make sure I say hi to you guys. I saw Ashton is in here. Hello. Thank you so much for 1K. I know, isn't that crazy? Very excited. Very exciting. Yeah, we kind of celebrated it a little bit yesterday, just because, I understand it's just 1,000. It's not 1 million, but it was pretty surreal because, I just started this for fun, doing Patriot stuff. And then when we moved our wrestling podcast to YouTube, again, that was just for fun, and we were like, okay, maybe people would view us more if we were on YouTube. And so it's pretty crazy how much that's grown in like 9 months. It's a slow process, but pretty exciting. So I'm hoping to keep doing the Patriot stuff on here so I can help grow that part too, because as you guys know, this is a huge part of my life as well. So this is all I talk about. All I talk about is the Patriots and wrestling, basically. I swear I don't do anything else. So if I get an excuse to make a video and maybe make a couple bucks off it, then, might as well. So I appreciate you guys still supporting my channel and coming in here and chatting with me about the Patriots. I really look forward to doing this when I'm able to. So shout out to you guys. Let's see. The next point of emphasis will be to slow down CeeDee Lamb. Kind of the same thing as coupling with slowing down Dak. This is going to come down to, I would assume, a lot will be Gonzo. We're going to have to see what he can do again in basically the fourth straight week of having an elite receiver to cover. I mean, even if we don't get Jonathan Jones, I think it's fair to assume that Gonzo will be under a lot of pressure to keep that streak going. With Jack Jones still out, Marcus Jones now out, and especially if Jonathan Jones is out, there's going to be a lot on Gonzo's shoulders, that's for sure, because CD has eaten us alive in the past. So it's going to be an interesting test to see, because he's done a pretty good job so far. We'll go into detail a little bit more about that, but definitely slowing down CeeDee Lamb. Then we have the defensive line. It needs to bring its A game, because the Cowboys have an injured offensive line, just like the Patriots. They're dealing with several injuries. As I said, we already saw that their tackle is out. Their starting guard is dealing with a knee injury, I believe. And their center is dealing with some sort of injury as well. So we could be looking at all three of those guys being out this week, or they could be playing, but we know they're banged up. So that could play in the Patriots' favor, especially, as I said, with like Equalee back, because I know that people aren't like huge Equalee fans, but he's done a pretty good job so far this season. He had a big play last week. So, you don't want to have a great edge and then your interior doesn't do anything. Like, that's not going to be beneficial at all. So we'll have to see. According to the Cowboys, they think that they could potentially get those remaining, the center and Zach Martin, back. But again, we'll see. They're still on the injury report, so we probably won't find out until probably around game time. But it is definitely going to be a weakness that I think they're going to want to try to exploit. So hopefully the Patriots can do that, because that would be awesome. Did I? Oh, and then I skipped the whole thing, guys. What the heck? Okay, hold on. I forgot to do this banner. What is wrong with me? All right. So the last emphasis is establishing the run game. We thought we were going to be a run first team this year, and so far that has not been the case. It's actually been a pass heavy team, which I'm not mad about, because I think, if you're solely reliant on your run game, you kind of become a one-dimensional team, and it's a lot easier for people to game plan for you. So I do think they need to incorporate it. Obviously, you don't sign Ezekiel Elliott and then you have Ramondre Stevenson in your running back room, and then you don't use them to their, benefit at all. So, so far we haven't seen them utilized at all. And that, I think, is a little bit surprising, because, once they signed Zeke in August, we kind of thought, okay, they're going to have the best 1-2 punch, the best running back duo in the league. And we haven't seen that yet. We did see it a little bit last week, where Zeke had, his best game as a Patriot so far. But again, 16 carries for 80 yards. That's great. But it's also averaging, I think it was 3.8 yards per carry. So not wonderful. Ramondre had 19 carries for 59 yards, which I think is around the same, about like 3.7, 3.8. And Zeke had the longest run of the day, which was for 14 yards. So that's not going to be enough to beat the Cowboys. We did see that, they didn't get like super dominated on the ground last week with James Conner and Rondale Moore, but they obviously did enough to get 2 touchdowns. So I think that if they can figure out a way to utilize Zeke especially and Ramondre in the passing game, because that's another thing that we haven't seen, there's no reason why that won't work. The problem that I have is that there was the assumption that they would be able to exploit the Dolphins in like totally inferior run defense, and especially because the week before they had over 220 yards or something run against them in the run. I think it was with Austin Eckler. So that did not happen when the Dolphins came to Foxborough. So as much as I'm like, yeah, okay, they can do this, like Zeke and Mondre are gonna do it against the Cowboys, like I'm a little bit pessimistic because they should have done it 2 weeks ago and they didn't. So that does make me a little bit nervous. But we need to see that explosive nature from Ramondre, and we need to see maybe if Zeke can use this as a revenge game. Maybe that's extra motivation, like I said, and just run hard, because that is something that we have seen, which I love. I love having two running backs that are like hard runners. I love running backs that are like LeGarrette Blount. That's like my favorite type of running back, you know? I want to see it. I want to see it. Chris says playing in a dome where the weather cannot affect the game should see some better production. That is very true, and that is something that I totally forgot about because of the dome. And that's a thing that I think some people have forgotten when they're criticizing Ezekiel Elliott. I think that people forget that he played his entire career for a team that played in a dome. Obviously, not every game that he played was in a dome, but it's the same argument that people had about Peyton Manning. He went from playing in a dome in Indy to then playing outdoors in cold, rain, snow in Denver, and it affected him for the beginning part of his time there. So that's kind of why I also give Zeke a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt, or a little bit more leniency, because it's going to be something that he's going to have to get used to. So that is interesting because it's the first dome game of the year. So let's hope that works in the Patriots' favor, because, you know, last week is also in a dome when they played the Cardinals, and that didn't benefit the Cowboys at all. So let's hope that it at least benefits the Patriots in some way, since the weather has been a factor in their games in weeks 1 and 2, right? 1 and 2, 1 and 3. Weeks 1 and 3. So let's look at the matchups to watch for. Obviously, Gonzo versus CD Lamb. Hello. I still need to write an article about this, and I really want to, because I am so happy that the Patriots got Christian Gonzalez. It's still kind of surreal to me, because I think I only did, out of the 100 mock drafts that I did, I think I only actually got Gonzalez one time in the first round. So, that was not something that I think really anyone foresaw happening. It was between him and Devin Witherspoon, and for the most part, they were going in top 5, top 10. So it still boggles my mind that 31 other teams allowed the Patriots to get the best cornerback of the draft class, who is looking like a veteran out there. They messed up, guys. They completely messed up, and it's hilarious because there are teams out there that are so mad that the Patriots may have gotten the best corner that they could draft in the last however many years. So we saw that he won Defensive Rookie of the Month for September, which was huge. He has an interception, a sack, 3 pass deflections, and 16 tackles so far. And in man coverage, he's only allowed his opponents to get open on 23% of the time. Are you kidding me? And the fact that we have Bill Belichick talking about Gonzo and comparing him to Stephon Gilmore, oh my gosh, I can only hope and pray that is true, because if he's looking this good already, and then you have the head coach talking about, oh yeah, he plays very reminiscent of Stephon Gilmore, are you serious? I'm over the moon, guys. I am very excited. So we know that he is going to have a big game ahead of him against CeeDee Lamb, presumably against CeeDee Lamb. Whether or not Jonathan Jones is in, we'll see. But I do think no matter what, we're probably going to have Gonzo on CeeDee Lamb. But he's done great. We've seen him against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in week 1, Tyreek Hill and against the Dolphins, Garrett Wilson last week against the Jets. So I feel pretty confident in him going up against a guy like CeeDee Lamb, and hopefully he can just keep doing what he's been doing. This is something that I thought was interesting, though. The defense so far, which I think is ironic that no one is talking about this, that the Patriots defense hasn't allowed a 100-yard receiver a game for a receiver at all this season. Why is no one talking about that? It's like when RG3 was saying that Tyreek Hill was unguardable, and obviously when your team gets 70 points, your entire team is doing unbelievable things that have probably never been done in the NFL before. So for him to put that out there in that game, okay, I understand, but at the same time, you're talking about the Patriots in week 2 was the meat of the sandwich, right? So week 1, I believe Tyreek Hill got over 100 or 200 yards. I can't remember. Week 3 did the same thing, completely went off. And week 2, he was held to 40 yards, and Gonzo was predominantly the guy on him. But then no one is talking about it. What do you mean he's unguardable? He's 1 week removed from being guarded. What are we talking about here? So, yeah, I expect that we're going to see that type of performance again in Dallas, and I'm very excited about it because I, for one, have been someone that has very much missed Stephon Gilmore, but I think that they're in good hands with the guys that they do have. Jonathan Jones, just the Joneses, and Gonzo and the Joneses, as I called them on Twitter a while ago. Another matchup to watch for, kind of already talked about it a little bit. It's Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott versus the Cowboys D-line. So they are a better duo than James Conner and Rondale Moore, obviously. The Cowboys did get run over 152 yards by those two, plus 55 more from Joshua Dobbs. The week before, Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones combined for 94 yards on 25 carries. So again, it's even though they were completely blown out, they still did get almost 100 yards on the ground. And hopefully the offensive line will be able to do a good enough job to allow them to have breakout games, because you got Ezekiel Elliott. You brought him in for a reason. He's shown no signs of decline or being washed like so many people wanted to believe when he signed with the Patriots. If anything, he's looked way better than Dalvin Cook, and that was, a more hyped signing by the Jets. And he got quite a bit more money than Ezekiel Elliott. And as I wrote on musketfire.com, the Patriots are looking like they definitely won that free agent battle for those top remaining running backs, because Dalvin Cook's not doing anything. I understand that it's Zach Wilson right now, but you're a running back. He just got to hand you the ball. Their offensive line is bad, but Ezekiel Elliott is still being able to overcome that. So, yeah, I want to see that. I think most of us probably could sign on to that, right? We want to see a big game from the running backs. Then, since I said a little bit already about Stephon Gilmore, we have the Patriots receivers versus Stephon Gilmore. Now, I think it depends on the week regarding who is kind of being considered the Patriots wide receiver 1. And it's kind of hard to say who Gilmore is going to be covering. We know that Trayvon Diggs is out because he tore his ACL, so we do get that benefit. And but Stephon Gilmore obviously is still really good. The Patriots even tried to trade for him before the Cowboys did, and they were outbid by the Cowboys, which is still so insane to me, because I'm the Cowboys traded a 6th rounder for him, and you got outbid. You wouldn't trade a 5th rounder, or a higher 6th rounder. I don't know. But anyway, the good thing for Gilmore is obviously he's very familiar with how the Patriots operate. So, he practiced against that offense for how many years? That could definitely play a key factor in him blowing up the offense. And we'll have to see what Mac does, because he might choose to not really throw Gilmore's way, depending on who he's covering, which could be could be Juju, it could be Kendrick Bourne, could be either Gesicki or Henry. We don't know. We might not even see a lot of deep throws, which is something that Mac hasn't shied away from this season, but he's not been too great at. He's 2 of 16 for throws 20 yards or longer. So it's probably not the week to explore that. But we'll have to see how the day goes. Hopefully the offensive line will be good enough to allow some of that. But that's going to basically, we're not going to know about that until we see them on the field, unfortunately. Then let's see. We have Mac Jones. This is the last one. Mac Jones and the Patriots O-line versus Micah Parsons. So last week, Mac was not sacked at all, which was great, but he was pressured a lot. Oh my gosh, you guys. My forehead is so itchy. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be fidgety, but I have an itchy forehead. Okay. So Mac wasn't sacked, as I said, but he was pressured a lot. And Micah has recorded 4 sacks and 20 quarterback pressures in the last 3 games. So he is going to be an absolute menace on the field, and the offensive line is going to have to do something, because this dude is very disruptive. And I would assume that the Cardinals have a better offensive line than us. I'm not sure exactly, but Dobbs was only sacked for negative 11 yards two times last week. So that could be a good sign for the Patriots as well. We can't let Micah take over the game, because he could immediately, like right away. And the Cowboys have way too many playmakers on their offense, especially to be keeping their offense on the field to score more points. So we need to make sure that the offensive line is doing enough to protect Mac from being just completely annihilated by Micah. So we're going to need Cole Strange and Onwenu to step it up. Hopefully Cole Strange will play, because David Andrews has been stellar, just like he always is, but he's going to need more help. And surprisingly, Trent Brown has been the best tackle in the league. And I'm wondering if he's a little bit more motivated by his reworked contract, because he allowed 0 pressures last week for 30 snaps. And he's actually the top ranked tackle by PFF. He's only allowed 2 pressures and 88 dropbacks. So we're going to need that kind of performance from him on Sunday for sure. Especially if Cole Strange doesn't play and they're having, maybe City So play. I don't know. We'll have to see. But we're going to need to see something similar to, like, I would say what we saw in week 1, because week 1 was far better performance-wise from the offensive line than it was in week 2 against the Dolphins. So hopefully they can hold it down enough to just let the offense do what they gotta do, because people seem to just overlook how much an offensive line actually contributes to a team. Like, maybe you don't want to pay an offensive lineman however many millions of dollars, but do you see how much it impacts the success of an offense and a team? There's a reason why some of these dudes get paid tons and tons of money. It's because, they need you. The success of the quarterback, the success of the run game, the success of the receivers, it all hinges on the protection and blocking of the offensive line. So hopefully they can get it done, And as Chris says, this is a massive test this week for the O-line. It really is. It really is. And I hope that they can look good. I would really love for them to come out with a win, because I actually had them finishing their first 4 games. I think I had them 2-2. I had them winning the Dolphins. So the Dolphins and the Jets game. So it would be nice if they could, win the Cowboys game instead, because obviously they lost to the Dolphins, but we shall see. So before I wrap things up, there are a couple records that could be broken in this game. So I wanted to make sure we brought that up because that is kind of interesting. So Bill Belichick, he got his 299th win against the Jets last week. So if he gets a win against the Cowboys, he's going to be just the third head coach in NFL history to record 300 plus wins. That's insane. That's insane. I think that includes the postseason, but still, that's absolutely insane. Like I just saw there was a clip from the Kelsey Brothers podcast, and they were talking about how many wins Andy Reid needs, and it's like he needs so many to catch up to Belichick, and it's like it just really puts things into perspective about how dominant Belichick has been, and that the Patriots dynasty is unfathomable, and the fact that he could get his 300th win is insane. Then we also have a sack streak going on right now. The Patriots have gone 22 straight games with a sack. So right now they are tied in third all time with the Panthers. So they're sitting behind the Chiefs, who have 23, and the Ravens, who have 24. So hopefully we can see a Judon sack, an Uche sack, a Bentley sack, a Y sack, something to keep this going, because that would be a really cool streak to continue. Judon seems like he's on a mission this season already. So, I mean, I feel like it's not too much to assume that they will get a sack, but we'll see. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And speaking of Matthew Judon, he is also potentially going to break some more records this season. I did write about this. I think I put it out yesterday. So if you guys didn't read that, check it out. But Judon just eclipsed the top 10 all time for sacks in the Patriots franchise history. He now has 37 sacks. Already has 4 sacks on the season this year. So does he have 37 or 32? 32? 32. Let me double check. I'm sitting here all confident. Like, I'm like, yeah. No, I think it might be. I think it might be 32. Because I think he passed. Oh, no, 37. I was right. No, 32. In 37 games. That's where I got the 37. Okay, so he just passed Teddy Bruschi, who had 30.5 sacks through 189 games. Matthew Judon is just in his 3rd season with the Patriots. He's played in 37 games and already has 32 sacks. Guys, do you know how insane that is? He's very close to Garen Veras, who has 36. Same thing with Chandler Jones, who has 36. So these are ones that he could potentially pass this year. Richard Seymour has 39, which would put him in 7th. I don't know if he'll hit 43. I mean, I guess he could if he got 11 more sacks, 11 and a half more sacks. Brent Williams has 43.5 sacks. But so far, Matthew Judon is like absolutely insane, because all of these guys ahead of him have played double the amount of games that he has played, if not triple. And he's already like booting them out of this list. So he did break the record in 2021 when he had 6.5 sacks through 5 games. He already has 4, as I said. So if he can get 2.5 sacks in the next 2 games or more, then he'll have even broken his own record that he broke 2 years ago. So very exciting stuff. I am very excited that Matthew Judon is a Patriot, and I think he is one of the players that most of us will agree we hope is a Patriot for life. I would love for him to just retire a Patriot. Like, don't ever leave. Do not let this man leave. Okay, Belichick. But that is all I have to talk about today. Very quick today, but it is straight to it. And there's not a whole lot of you here today, so not a whole lot of comments. But I will be back on Monday to do a reaction to this game. Hopefully we can talk about a win. That would be awesome. I'll be back on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern to talk about the Patriots getting a win, I hope. And then we'll be moving on to week 5. So I would love for you guys to be back here with me next week. Thank you so much for being here. Go Patriots, as Chris said. And I will see you guys next week. Bye, guys.